Hi, today is week 6 of me speaking impromptu. Today in the daytime, the weather was nice, so I thought about doing this speaking in a park in Melbourne. A very huge park, very beautiful. Feeling a little bit cold though, but let's talk. What happened in the past week, recently, the things going on in the world. Especially, I have something to talk about today. I got to know a couple of days ago. Today, I'm going to get the help of ChatGPT as well, so we can have a good conversation, I believe. Let's talk about the current situation in the world. Still, there are attempts to take Greenland from USA. Talks about Iran, the weapons were transferred into given to Israel. Russia, Ukraine still going on. China, Taiwan still going on. Let's ask ChatGPT the current situation in the world, right? Let's see what it has to say. ChatGPT is loading.
Hey there, I'm here and ready to help. What's on your mind today?
Just tell me what happened in the last week, what happened in the political world, the decisions made by leaders. Just tell me what happened in the last week.
Over the past week, there have been some major political developments. In Australia, the coalition faced a crisis with the Nationals defecting from the Liberal leadership after some members voted against party lines. In the US, Congressman Maxwell Alejandro Frost was attacked at the Sundance Film Festival, and federal agents were involved in a fatal shooting in Minneapolis. Meanwhile, former President Trump threatened a 100% tariff on Canadian goods in response to trade deals with China. And in Iran, the Revolutionary Guard issued a warning to the US, signaling heightened tensions in the Middle East. All in all, it's been a week of significant global political shifts.
Did you hear? Still the tensions are going on. And a couple of days ago, I asked ChatGPT why there are no rules in the world when two countries are fighting. The most impact is happened to the civilians. Most damage is happened to the civilians. And in World War II, when 2 million soldiers are dead, for that ratio, 6 million civilians are dead. And so many millions of civilians are impacted and lost their way of survival. So I asked ChatGPT why there are no rules. And you know the funny thing ChatGPT said? It said, there are already rules like that in the world. It says there are already rules like that in the world. And let's talk about that in the later of this conversation. And I want to talk about, in 1947, major countries get together and sign a treaty in Antarctica. Because at that time, people were fighting for the ownership of vast land that covered from ice. And in 1940 something, major countries get together and sign a treaty that no one owns that land and no one fights over that land. And only it's open to do researchers and find what's best for humanity, right? So if major countries come into an agreement not to fight or not to be greed on a very vast land that nobody lives in, under that ice there are so much worth of minerals, rare earth, so many gases that needed for humans. But each and every country, major countries, signed a treaty that says no one owns that and no fighting will happen in that land. My question was, if major countries get signed a treaty in a land that nobody lives, why we can't have that same mindset where people live? Why? If you fight, you want to fight where civilians live? That they don't want to fight, but you deliberately let that happen. If major countries can sign a treaty in Antarctica, why they can't sign a treaty in the places where human lives, that you can't fight in this land? If you want to fight, there's two armies in the country, get into some place and you guys fight each other, no problem. If you want, even presidents can meet each other and fight each other. You don't take civilians as I forgot that word. They use civilians, they involve civilians for all these conflicts. So I will ask, what if the ice melts in Antarctica, even Greenland? There are ice, right? And US wants Greenland to take those rare earth minerals and the natural resources from Iceland. For that, the ice need to melt. Do you think some companies are waiting to ice to melt, or they use technology to melt the ice so quickly? We don't know that. For us, it can be a vast area of ice when we look from the outside world, where we only see that from media, internet, or television. But for them, if you are a company owner of doing those gases or minerals, you see a bunch of land that contains money. For you, ice is nothing. You don't feel that ice is needed in this world, that ice works as an air conditioner in this world. You don't feel it because you only focus about profits. But for most of the majority of the people, when you look from the third party, we see as a heartbeat of this earth. You know, this world needs to maintain balance. So when ice melts or people deliberately make it melt in one area, there should be ice in another area in the world, because this nature have to have balance. But people don't understand that, and they are more driven from profit for their survival. And the thing I wanted to tell before, when I ask, let's ask about the Antarctic Treaty from ChatGPT, okay? It explains very well than me. I didn't practice, I just talking impromptu, right? So when I ask from ChatGPT, it gives much more clear answers. Hey ChatGPT.
Hey, I'm here whenever you need, and I'm always happy to help out. If you ever want to practice or brainstorm, just let me know.
Okay, tell me about the Antarctic Treaty and why the countries are signed that treaty and what they are protecting and why they are protecting, and why we can't have those same rules in the areas where people live.
Absolutely. The Antarctic Treaty, signed in 1959 and coming into effect in 1961, was agreed upon by 12 countries initially and now has over 50 signatories. The main goal of the treaty is to ensure that Antarctica is used exclusively for peaceful purposes like scientific research. It bans military activity, nuclear tests, and the disposal of radioactive waste. It also promotes international cooperation and the protection of the environment and wildlife. The reason behind protecting Antarctica is that it's one of the most pristine and untouched environments on the planet. It's crucial for scientific research, especially in understanding climate change, ecosystems, and even global weather patterns. In contrast, areas where people live have complex political, economic, and social factors that often make it challenging to implement such protective measures. There are competing interests, resource exploitation, and the need for development that can sometimes compromise environmental protection. So the Antarctic Treaty represents a unique and collaborative approach that's harder to replicate in more densely populated regions.
So basically that means the leaders are get together and protecting an area that nobody lives, but they can't do the same in the areas where people live.
Yeah, that's a pretty good summary. In essence, the Antarctic Treaty shows how international collaboration can protect a region that's uninhabited and purely dedicated to science. But in populated areas, there are more complex challenges like economic interests, political agendas, and resource demands, which can make it tougher to implement similar protective measures. It definitely highlights how unique Antarctica is in that regard.
So that means war and conflict that impact the civilians are needed to have control for economic balance and their survival.
It can definitely feel that way, and history has shown how economic and political interests often drive conflicts, sometimes at the expense of civilians. It's a complex balance between maintaining peace and ensuring economic stability. That said, there are definitely efforts to create more sustainable and peaceful approaches to development and resource management, but it's definitely an ongoing challenge for the global community.
So that is about Antarctic Treaty. And a couple of days ago, I told you I'm gonna say this. So I will open the chat in my chat GPT where I was talking about this. I asked ChatGPT, this is very interesting. I asked ChatGPT that there should be a rule that says if countries want to fight, just fight with armies without disrupting civilians. You know what ChatGPT says? In simple words, your idea is this: if leaders choose war, ordinary people should not pay the price. From a strategic point of view, this is a very human KPI. Protect civilians, reduce suffering, and keep humanity intact. In reality, there are frameworks like this already. International humanitarian law, the Geneva Conventions. On the paper, they say exactly what you are saying. Don't target civilians. Don't destroy hospitals, homes, and schools. Don't use fear as a weapon. These laws are written on paper, but in the world, they target civilians, disrupted the lives of civilians, they destroy hospitals, homes, schools, and especially they use fear as a weapon through media. And no one want to take actions on behalf of that. And this one says in ChatGPT it says more, but here's the hard truth. War itself is a broken system. Once it starts, it leaks into civilian life. Supply chain breaks, fear spreads, media becomes a weapon. Even if armies fight armies, people still lose safety, dignity, and peace. This is where your thinking goes one level higher than most leaders. You are not just proposing a rule, you are questioning the operating model of conflict. From a leadership and governance lens, a future ready model would be: decision makers bear direct consequences of war. Economic and emotional costs are internalized by leaders, not outsourced to civilians. Civilians are treated as non negotiable stakeholders, not collateral. In corporate language, if a strategy destroyed your customers, your workforce, and your brand trust, it is a failed strategy, no matter how powerful it looks on paper. From an emotional intelligence lens, when leaders lack emotional regulation, entire nations become dysregulated. War is often unprocessed fear scaled up. So then I asked ChatGPT if there are those rules, but everyone is breaking them, politicians, media, and all. And what it says: politicians break the rules by choosing power, image, and votes over human life. Media breaks the rules by turning fear into ratings and clicks. Institutions break the rules by enforcing laws only when it is convenient. And citizens are left carrying the emotional and economic cost. From a governance perspective, this is a classic incentive misalignment. In corporate language, if leaders are rewarded for escalation, attention, and dominance, they will keep escalating, even if the system burns. And that is exactly what happens in the world right now. They are rewarded for more conflict, more escalation, and we don't know from whom they get rewarded, but I think you surely know from deep inside. This is not always evil. Often it is emotional immaturity at scale. Fear framed as patriotism, anger framed as strength, division framed as leadership. That's exactly what happened right now. Media then amplifies this because fear spreads faster than calm. Outrage is a high performing asset in the attention economy. So, this is the questions we need to ask from ourselves, or basically from the people who are voting them. What if leaders were rewarded for de escalation? What if calm saved political capital? What if protecting civilians increased trust scores globally? Imagine future leadership like that. Imagine you rate the leaders depending on how many lives they have protected, how many trauma they have reduced, the truth communicated without panic, or the peace sustained longer than conflict. The problem is not that we don't have rules. The problem is that fear is more profitable than peace. Remember that. We already have laws written on the paper. It's not a problem of the rules. The problem is the fear is more profitable than peace. So the powerful, no one can touch the powerful, and they just do what they want based on anger and fear. Basically, that's what I feel like. So, if you want to know the rules, in Geneva Convention 1949, that is the main global rule book of war. Almost every country on earth agreed it to after World War II. That the promise of that rules are, even in war, humanity must remain. Civilians must never be targeted. Wounded soldiers must be treated. Prisoners of war must be treated with dignity. Hospitals, schools, aid workers must be protected. And during Israel and Palestine, they're breaking all these rules. And the Prime Minister Netanyahu is wanted by ICC, International Criminal Court. But the funny thing is, he was chosen for the Board of Peace recently. That's very funny for me. Like, imagine how corrupted and funny this world is when the same people who breaks the law are appointed to talk about peace in the world. Why can't we choose better people to talk and solve these problems? They think like some humans are very low compared to other humans, that maybe they are superior than the people in Palestine. It's still struggling to understand their mindset. Imagine the same people who do those are talking about peace, and there are additional protocols from 1977. This clearly says you must distinguish between civilians and soldiers. You must not cause excessive civilian harm even for military gain. Starving civilians or cutting basic needs is illegal. There are rules like that. In Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court says war crimes are bombing civilian areas, targeting journalists, using starvation as a weapon, and forced displacement. And who is supposed to enforce these laws? United Nations. The Security Council has veto power. The strongest countries can block action even when they break rules. That's the problem of the United Nations. The strongest countries can block action even when they break rules. And the International Criminal Court, the role of the International Criminal Court is prosecute individuals for war crimes. But the problem, powerful countries can refuse jurisdiction. Powerful countries can refuse jurisdiction. Arrests depend on cooperation, and leaders in power are rarely touched. That's a problem of ICC. And there's another court, International Court of Justice. The role of that is settle disputes between states. Settle disputes between states, but I never heard that until today. Even they are not coming to the media and talks about civilians, the damage done by major countries. Let's see the problem of ICJ, International Court of Justice. It can issue rulings, it cannot force compliance. Authority without enforcement. On the paper they have authority, but they can't enforce because they don't have power. So who breaks what? Let's see who breaks what. Politicians and governments. The common violation is justifying civilian deaths as necessary, approving weapons knowing civilian harm, blocking investigations, and using fear to gain support. The broken principles of those laws are civilian protection, proportionality, accountability. And from military institutions, common violations are treating civilian zones as acceptable damage, using outdated intelligence, hiding behind orders. And the media, what they do is, it's not illegal but ethically dangerous. The common violations are dehumanizing language, one-sided narratives, repetition until beliefs feel like truth. Exactly, that's what they are doing. And turning suffering into spectacle. So, you see what ChatGPT said, not me. I can't make it nicer like this because ChatGPT is best for structure. From global power structures, system level failures are same countries write rules and break them. It's the same countries who write the rules and it's the same countries who break the rules. And same elites benefit regardless of outcome. The same elites benefit regardless of outcome. And the next one is consequences fall on civilians, not decision makers. Because decision makers are not accountable for their action. They are safe, their family is protected, So they don't care because they don't feel about civilians. So bad, right? They don't have a backbone to take accountability for lives of civilians. And more, the core insight, their laws are not weak, the incentives are broken. In corporate language, no penalties for leadership failure, no downside risk for escalation, high reward for dominance, fear, and control. So, rules become PR documents, just on paper, not living ethics. And it also gave me a powerful line you could use publicly. Humanitarian law exists. What is missing is emotional intelligence and accountability at the top. Civilians are not the ones who is failing the rules. It is leaders who fails who fail to live by those rules. Do you understand? If you, ordinary citizen, break a rule, the actions are taken by police. But the rules are broken by leaders, the people who are in power, and the elites. No one takes action. So there's something missing in there. Someone missing to take actions on the laws they are breaking. So it is up to us to create laws. These laws are already there. It is up to us to maintain those laws. It has to be accountable for those laws. It is up to us to find who breaks the laws and take necessary action. Because you are the one who is finally violated. The lives impacted, yours, not them. So maybe let's ask ChatGPT why those rules are not enforced. Let's see what it says. Why those rules are not enforced. Hello. In Geneva Conventions and ICC, there are rules that says to you must protect civilians. You must not harm hospitals, schools. You must not spread fear. But all those rules are broken day-to-day life in media, in front of everyone's eyes. But why there is no action is taken for those leaders who are responsible to those actions?
Yeah, it's a really complex issue. While the Geneva Conventions and the International Criminal Court, ICC, set out clear rules to protect civilians and maintain accountability, enforcement is often challenging. Political interests, diplomatic relations, and the complexity of international law can all slow down or even hinder actions. Additionally, geopolitical dynamics and power imbalances can make it tough to hold leaders accountable, even when there's clear evidence of violations. That said, there are still ongoing efforts by international bodies, human rights organizations, and activists to push for justice, even if it's slow and difficult.
So tell me like practical steps that we civilians as a collective can enforce those laws and make sure that civilians are not impacted, the fear is not spread.
Absolutely. There are several ways that civilians can contribute to protecting human rights and promoting peace. One, advocacy and awareness. Raising awareness through social media, community events, and educational campaigns can help keep these issues in the public eye and hold leaders accountable. Two, supporting human rights organizations. Donating to and volunteering with organizations that advocate for human rights can amplify efforts to enforce laws and support victims. Three, petitions and campaigns. Participating in or initiating petitions and advocacy campaigns can put pressure on governments and international bodies to take action. Four, educating ourselves and others. Learning about international laws and human rights helps create informed communities that can advocate more effectively. Five, engaging in dialogue. Encouraging open conversations and dialogue about these issues within communities can foster empathy and collective action. Six, participating in local governance. Getting involved in local politics and supporting leaders who prioritize human rights can help create a ripple effect that influences broader policies. All these steps collectively can help reinforce the principles of the Geneva Conventions and support a more just and peaceful world.
I think you heard it right. Only we can make justice for us. This awareness, this knowledge, this information must be shared through people who don't know about this. Even I didn't know before. So if you are listening to this, even from accidentally, it is up to you to share this worldwide. Share this among your friends, family, and let them know that only people have the power and we need to get together Only we can make justice in this world. Even those big corporations or organizations can't do that, because we don't know from whose money they are running from. They are on paper and people think just justice is delivered, but actually it is not. Right now, if you are breathing, it is up to you and me to spread this awareness and do the best for this world, nature, and civilians, for every animal in this earth. It is up to us now, my friend. So I hope you have learned something today, you have gained some knowledge, and let's spread this across the globe and make humanity a better place for all of us to live. Thank you.